Yes, yes. Please come in, students. Come in. This is my office in virtual reality, and today I'm Albert Einstein, because he's known for the theory of relativity. Right? And lesson 9 only covers one chapter, a very important and interesting part of our text. Chapter 18 attempts to pull it all together, and asks, is it possible to develop a general theory of delinquency? Well, as difficult as it was for me to pull things together to come up with my famous theory, E equals mc squared, it may be even more difficult to pull together a general theory of delinquency. Dealing with people is tricky, because we are all individuals, and have free will, and are capable of making decisions. Good or bad decisions. But we are dealing with something that gives a lot of young people a lot of trouble in their lives, and we don't want that. So we try to understand and help them in every way we can. Here we see a fine job of organization, and a prime example of why I have chosen this textbook over many others. If you ever think our textbook is complex, or confusing, just read some other textbooks on juvenile delinquency and you will understand my choice of Agnew and Brezina's text. We tend to want easy, simple answers to some very complex questions about young people's behavior. And while that may not always be possible, Agnew and Brezina do a great job in this chapter of showing you very strong methods of organization and execution. The two authors' long experience in analyzing and comprehending vast amounts of data on juvenile delinquency, we see used to good effect in chapter 18. If you have been reading and reviewing, self-testing at the end of each chapter, to make sure you understand the material, this chapter should make a lot of sense to you. And build your confidence. Because, you've already been applying the 4 theories to situations presented in the text. As well as in your own experience and observation. You'll appreciate the emphasis on the 4 clusters or super traits often associated with delinquency. Because as Agnew and Brezina stress, the 4 clusters, or super traits, represent the 4 major domains of a young person's life. Their individual traits, or self. Their family experiences. School experiences. And experiences with peers. This general theory of delinquency, I think, is particularly easy to comprehend, because it comes in 4 parts, and as I just mentioned, deals with the 4 major domains of a young person's life. And it comes back to a basic fact about delinquency, and the questions this fact raises. Males offend at higher rates than females in terms of violent crimes. Here we look at an age-old question about any aspect of human behavior. Is it primarily cultural, or biological, in origin? Do you believe that males are so different biologically, that no amount of cultural variation in their lives can change certain behavioral tendencies? Do you believe that biology, while important, is dwarfed in influence when compared to cultural influences? Or do you have a different view? Some people take extreme stances on the question of nature versus nurture, stating that biological drives are inherent and unchangeable. Others say culture is the driving force in all aspects of human behavior, and ignore biology altogether. My own opinion, based on experience, observation, and study, is that there is a mix of biological drives and cultural influences. And I agree with those who attempt to explain the differences in rates of offending, among individuals as well as groups, as a mix of those influences. In other words, I agree with the authors of the text. That when we see a higher rate of delinquency in certain individuals, or groups, especially when the main difference is race, there are probably situational differences, environmental differences if you will, that explain more of the high rate of delinquency, than biological ones. To be clear, I will never accept an argument that one race is more prone to crime than another. For instance, we've seen entire inner-city neighborhoods with the main characteristics of high-crime neighborhoods, that have been for long periods primarily African American. And in a short time those neighborhoods' racial makeup changed, to a majority of white or Latino residents. The racial makeup changed, but the high crime rates remained. This speaks to the argument that the situations, the circumstances in which people live, individually and in groups, has a lot to do with the possibility for high rates of offending. Make sense? Pay close attention to this simple, yet important chapter. I know a lot of you will have already pulled it all together, in terms of seeing the four clusters as being interrelated and influencing each other. I know many of you have already asked why males are more likely to possess these super traits, or clusters of traits conducive to delinquent behavior. And I know you probably all began the course with some opinion as to the nature versus nurture question. Is behavior biologically hardwired? Or is culture equally important in questions of human behavior? More important than biology? Your initial opinion may have changed by now. And if you find yourself confused, scratching your head, I understand. After all, when we're dealing with human behavior, we should be endlessly curious, and a bit of confusion comes with the territory. Once we think we have it all figured out, we'll see something happen that blows our self-assurance out of the water. No E equals MC squared in humankind, I'm afraid. Working with young people in trouble taught me something I'll never forget. We can learn theory, and we can study statistics, but each person is an individual, and all human beings are capable of change. That change can be for better, or worse, but change is probably the only constant I have observed in life. That's the end of the mini lecture for lesson 9. I hope you are all doing well, and enjoying the last part of this semester. Remember, getting things done on time, or early, is a great way to take pressure off ourselves. Putting things off until the last minute increases the likelihood of mistakes, and all too often keeps us from doing our best. Take a tip from strain theory, and don't be the person or thing blocking your goals. Look for positive stimuli, and positive people. It will make your educational experience much more meaningful, and your personal life much less stressful. My best to you all. Oh yes, and do be safe, and have fun.